Good morning, everybody. I didn't realise that Lorna has moved to Cork. That's new, and it's great. And she's just said that she'll call into us, so we'll get the benefit of her superb expertise. And I must say, listening to her presentation, it's a completely different world to what I live in. And indeed, what I'm going to speak about perhaps this morning may well be a completely different world to what a lot of you live in. Because I noticed earlier at the outset that there are a significant number of service designers here in the organisation. I'm sure there are public service attendees. In fact, I noticed from the attendance list that there are quite a few public service organisations from across Europe. So I sincerely hope that you get something out of this. I was going to stand up here and say, welcome to Cork. It's very difficult for a Corkman to come to Dublin and say, welcome to Dublin. You'll get a sense of that about our attitude as I move through this. We're quite cocky and ambitious, etc. But I do think as well, it's a privilege for us as an organisation, and you'll see up behind you here, Cork County Council and Service Republic, and I'll speak a little bit about that as well. Because we put an incredible focus on developing our culture, our innovation, acceptance levels within the organisation, and using service design techniques to do so. So I'm going to take you on a journey. It's a journey, I suppose, that in some ways it's in my comfort zone. It's perhaps outside of a lot of your comfort zone. So I just wanted to start thinking a little bit differently about some of the service design stuff can quite honestly be abstract to me, but it's great to get you thinking. But my life is day in, day out. There's a certain amount of firefighting. There's a lot of politics involvement. There's a lot of engagement with citizens at the same time. And in leading an organisation of the scale of what we have, I think you'll get a sense of, from your own point of view, when you go into an organisation, you really need to think about how well is that organisation structured and designed and receptive to service design thinking and innovation. So there you are. I'm not a service designer. I describe myself as a public service junkie. There's no doubt about that. My entire life has been in the public service across local government and the health services. Things to me like the cloud is outside there this morning. That's going to bring rain this evening and possible flooding. That's what the cloud means to me. In fact, I have a conference call with my management team down in Cork at 12 noon to consider what conditions are going to hit us overnight and how we're going to respond to the public with those type of things. Indeed, the back office, and I was thinking about it, and I hear people talking about the back office, that's where I go for solace, for my own bit of thinking and protection from things at times. But I am a fanatic about organisational culture, about leadership, and about in particular what makes an organisation tick in terms of getting the conditions right for success. And we've gone through an incredible journey in Cork County Council in order to raise the awareness of staff about service design, thinking about innovation, and make them feel as if they're part of the organisation, and indeed others as well, and the citizens. Ultimately, delivering for citizens and delivering for results is the title of the 2 days. Delivering meaningful outcomes for citizens is the title here, and I'll come to the end as to what our real raison d'etre is. Our real raison d'etre as an organisation is, while we deliver a phenomenal amount of services, we ultimately have to raise the quality of life for everybody in our region, and that's a region of about 500,000 people, second in the country to Dublin. And I want to give you a little bit of a flavour about that through some imagery. There you go, my technology, that works. I'll just dwell on that for a moment. Some of you would have been in the Roundhouse last night, and I'm sure probably suffering from Hyde whiskey and Beira gin this morning. Any of you who weren't there, you've missed it, and you've got to come to Cork to experience that. But we, as an organisation, we have 2,500 staff. We're actually equivalent to 30% of the size of the country of Wales in geographical size, and we actually have equivalent to 40% of the Welsh coastline. We have 1,100 kilometres of coastline with over 200 access points. But we cover services across lifeguards, beaches, libraries, public realm, major infrastructure development, lab technicians, emergency services, and indeed, normally, we're most relevant in responding to emergency situations, and that's when the public really see the value of us as an organisation. And because of that, we have a phenomenal number of channels of service delivery. They're diverse, and I think Lorna in her own way kind of touched on some of this, that they're unseen, they're not readily recognised. And that presents a significant challenge for us. And I suppose in the same way as a private company, we have to take account not just of the process in terms of how we deliver our service, but critically the look and the feel of our product at the end of the day. And that could be a product from a park to a playground to anything. And just a short aside, I was talking to my son the other night. He's 17, and I've just ordered a new iPhone XS for him. And he said, "Dad, where's it going to be delivered to?" And I said, "Why?" I said, "Because will it be in the box?" I said, "It's coming to my office. It's not coming to home. No, I'll deliver it to the office because..." "So will I get it in the box?" he said to me. And I said, "Why?" "Because that is the experience. It's just opening the box. It's not about, as well as the process, it's the experience of the product and the service that you're actually getting is part of all our raising data, as a part of a private company's success in terms of driving its sales, as part of our success in terms of getting customers happy." And he used Nutella as another example. When you get your jar of Nutella, a lot of you don't think about the process that's going behind all of that, but actually it's the experience of opening that jar of Nutella and just tearing it off in your own way. And it mightn't even be about the taste afterwards. It might be just about the smell. So the only point really of saying it here is that our touch points of service delivery are so varied. They could be in the private sector. It could be that type of thing about your iPhone X coming in the box, or the Nutella and the way that's presented, etc. But in our situation, our public realm ultimately is our touch point. And I know that when you talk as service designers about touch points, you talk about websites, phone interactions, face-to-face touch points, forums, and very much technology driven on how we use technology. But ultimately, when you come out your door and you go out here this morning onto the street, when you walk across the bridge, the public realm that is presented by Dublin City Council, that's what you experience in a city. So as public service organisation in my case, and indeed in any sector, and indeed as a service designer, the whole thinking about the process must ultimately lead to what does it feel and look like, whether it's a hard product or a soft product or unseen at the end of the day. In terms of our public realm, our touch points are: how are we organised for our disability services? How are we organised for the elderly? How are we organised for children? How do you access these things? Because that ultimately drives our reputation as well. Getting back to Cork, this is how Ireland is described. And it always brings a great laugh, but it's not funny to us because we're serious about it, okay? But I've just put it up there, and it's leading me into a situation about getting understanding of organisations, because when you come in to design something, you have to understand what's the attitude inside the organisation. Is this going to be receptive to us? Are we going to be facing real challenges inside here? And in Cork, when you come down to us next year, the year after, and bring your families, and that multiplies over the years, we're known as Rebel Cork, and actually we're known as the People's Republic of Cork as well. And that isn't just about being brash about ourselves. It actually depicts an attitude, I suppose, that within our organisation, that we say to ourselves, well, if you don't have an attitude about your organisation or what you're trying to deliver a service and how you're going to deliver that service, you'll have no direction, you'll have no vision, you'll have no service raising data, you'll have no psychological contract with the people you're delivering the service to, or indeed your staff won't have a psychological contract with yourself, with the management team, with the leadership team, or indeed with the citizens that they're delivering services to. So without an attitude of ambition and a level of kind of, yeah, we're going to be the best in this, it prohibits cultural change, and it prohibits a movement that we've been trying to achieve in Cork County Council towards one of ambition, one of acceptance of mistakes, one of becoming less risk averse, and opening up people's minds and allowing people to engage. And I was asked, I suppose, when we launched Service Republic, which was the first of its kind in the country for public service, what does this mean? Service Republic is our new service design team, trained specifically, etc. And I'd come to that in a moment. What does this mean? I said, it's very simple. For me as an organisation, I'm saying to our staff and to everybody out there, we are not afraid anymore. And that actually is a big statement for a public service organisation, and probably for some private organisation as well. It's just like, I suppose, in some ways, just like BMW or Adidas, our reputation is absolutely critical to us, and we need to be open. We need to be open and receptive to criticism. We need to take that as a positive criticism, and we need to deal with it. And we need to bring in service design thinking into all of that. And we need to open up staff minds, etc. to that. So In terms of reputation, I think we build our reputation through the psychological contract that we can develop between our citizens and ourselves, our communities and ourselves, our businesses and ourselves. In the private sector, that reputation drives sales, it drives turnovers. In our situation, that reputation drives improvements in the quality of life of citizens. And again, I'll come back to the fact that the audience is very much a service design audience, and some public service and private sector companies running large companies, you really need to make sure that your organisation that you're going into, even if you're accepting a contract with them, are they open and receptive to your way of thinking, and is the mindset and the psychological contract in there ready for you? And just for leaders in the organisation, you're all leaders in your own way, but anybody leading a large organisation, I just want to talk for a moment on what I feel as a chief executive. You can never, two things. First of all, you can never ever delegate, whether you're leading a team of 5 people or 25 people or 2,500 people. You can never delegate 4 things to people. They being the machine and the strategy that you organise it, the prioritisation of your resources, the structure of it, but ultimately the culture. And if, as a chief executive or a leader or a project manager, you're not driving a change in the cultural thinking within an organisation, you can never ever benefit from the innovation and the benefits from service design thinking and that abstract thinking that you allow people to space to open up their minds. And I'm not a lecturer in leadership or anything of that nature. I don't pretend to be, but I have a lot of personal experience in it and professional experience. And I would say that there are 4 key factors from my perspective that you have to show leadership from the top, and you have to get down and dirty with everybody in the organisation. You have to build the confidence of your people. And I'll come to this in a moment to see how we try to do this and what we realised ourselves as an organisation, and that we were way off the beaten track in terms of our confidence levels. And you've got to recognise as well that people have perhaps been struggling. They're all open to innovation at times, and the smallest piece of innovation might be just simply designing a new form for themselves. But you also have to accept your limitations, and in public service organisations, your limitations are vast. There are limitations of resources, of time, etc. But that's fine if you can accept your own limitations, but you've got to get that psychological contract with your citizens as well, so that they understand your limitations, and jointly you can improve things together within those limitations. I've been talking a bit about the psychological contract. I won't dwell on this one, but what is it and who is it with? And are you personally engaged with the job that you're doing? And ultimately, I'd pose the question to everybody inside the organisation or inside the auditorium here: do you actually understand the heartbeat of the organisation that you're going to work in, that you're running yourselves? And how strong is it? And what does it actually mean to you? Because if you don't, quite frankly, you won't be able to introduce the conditions for innovation and openness and design thinking. I just want to take you on another little journey. I think I've gone a fraction too far. Yeah, your perceptions. And the whole issue of perceptions. And they are massively powerful in terms of building the attitudes and the beliefs and the values of people. We all have perceptions about each other here in the organisation. If you met somebody last night, you perceived something about them. But actually, when you started to talk to them, you started to understand them. And within organisations, you've got to turn the spotlight on yourselves. And has anybody inside here turned the spotlight on themselves and on their staff and sought from your communities out there, well, how are we perceived as an organisation? And then ask your staff, well, how do you believe you're perceived as an organisation? Are you afraid to do so? We've done it in Cork County Council, and at the outset, my HR director said, Tim, no, you cannot open, please do not open that closet. You just don't know what's going to jump out of it. But I said, unless we open the closet and are challenged ourselves and challenged our staff to think about ourselves as well and how we might be perceived, we're never ever going to move out of the situation that we're in. We had gone through a 32% reduction in staffing over the last 5 to 6 years. So people were challenged, etc. We had to understand the mindset and that heartbeat. And this is what we ended up with. We ended up with a phenomenal crisis of confidence within the organisation. That's not it. That's just to depict the fact that that's where we were. We had a phenomenal blockage within the organisation, not in terms of quality, not in terms of people's ability to do things, but in terms of their confidence levels, driven by a whole range of perceptions that they had themselves, probably driven by newspaper articles, radio articles, etc., but never really looking inwardly at ourselves to see, well, how can we change this? And I have 3 slides just to give you a feel for that. We asked hundreds of questions by a professional company, Behaviour and Attitudes, based here in Dublin. That's a summary of it with 3 slides. Residents, only 10% of them perceived us as being negative, a negative organisation. Only 18% of businesses. But within our organisation, 59% of our staff felt that we were perceived negatively. Now, what does that do for people's confidence? And enabling them to think innovatively and take chances and be less risk-averse, etc. Similarly, I just picked out 4. We asked about the imagery of our organisation. The bottom 2 I'll focus on. There were a whole range of others inside there. Businesses and residents ranged from 60% to 68% as being an organisation that were positive, that were confident. Indeed, look at the professional side of it. 72% of business felt that we were professional. They are high ratings. But look at the bottom 2 right figures. Our staff felt that only 22% of those out there would see us as being positive, and 22% as being positive. Again, an incredible divergence between what our staff felt about us as an organisation, how we were perceived, and how businesses and residents perceived us. And again, that was a phenomenal crisis of confidence. So how do you build that? And ultimately, less than 33% of staff believed that the public valued the service provided by us, when indeed it was up in the order of somewhere mid-70s to low 80%. So through all of that, to get and to start building and coming out of a recession in 2015, and to start thinking about how are we going to deal with this? Because if you come into an organisation and service design thinking is most certainly going to grow and grow and grow within the public service across Europe and indeed in Ireland as well, you won't achieve the results from it unless you deal and look inwardly at yourself first time and get people to tell you how are you perceived and what is the heartbeat and what's the psychological contract that people have with your organisation. How do we overcome it? A couple of things. We gave feedback. Very simple. We thanked people, we complimented people, we gave them that feedback. We did a whole range of communication and continuously. Our Facebook following has increased 17-fold in the last 3 years. Our Twitter following has increased 5-fold in the last 3 years because we've put a significant effort in getting the messaging out about ourselves. I know personally, annually, would front up with every member of staff of the organisation, 2,500, through a whole series of presentations and briefings to them. And in my view, if you're a leader of an organisation, your own face is the face of the organisation, and the manner in which you present yourself and open up to people is the manner in which you bring them with you. And ultimately, we also said, well, if that's the problem, how are we also organised from a service delivery point of view? So we did a review of our service delivery review, of how we were designed and what people wanted as well. And some stats came out of that. The top right one was quite phenomenal. Businesses and residents visit our website for less, 73% of them dwelled on our web pages for less than 1 minute. Less than 1 minute. Sometimes the stats go down to 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and I can tell you it hardly changed inside. I was like, what is this doing for us? When in fact 40% of our customer contact was just simply to obtain information, and 27% was just simply to report an issue. So you could see that we were being inundated, and perhaps that was why staff were feeling browbeaten, etc. If people weren't able to engage with our website and our technology in a manner to get information easily and report stuff easily, what was happening? The phone was ringing, people were calling in, there was abuse, etc., etc., etc. And as well as that, we needed to move to a 24/7, 365-day-a-year service. So we established in 2017 our own specific service design centre within the organisation. And I'll take you on that journey a small bit now. It's the first in Ireland. It was a partnership with Cork Institute of Technology. Heather has been here earlier. And partnering with them was highly successful because they brought a skill set, they brought a level of education and training that we were able to bring into our own staff. And that's the journey from 2015, from that perception survey. We established our own internal customer transformation team in 2016. November 2016, we launched yourcouncil.ie, a complete new website on how to engage with us. May 17, we launched Service Republic, and I'll come to that. Service Republic is part of our organisation, but it's a very dedicated team in terms of driving the change within the organisation. And interestingly, we took the brave decision as a public service organisation to hold an international conference on service design in Fota Island, down in Cork, last year. Some of you might have been there. Highly successful, about 300 attendees. And today, we are a platinum sponsor of the Global Design Network Conference here in Dublin. So that has been a real positive journey and a real positive influence on how we as an organisation take seriously our approach to designing services for our citizens. We called it Service Republic, service to the public, but also about reimagining, redesigning, re-engaging, restarting. And it was the public. The team, the critical thing. Building the team was quite the challenge in some ways. We've dedicated space. We've the partnership with CIT. We engaged Snook as our, I suppose, our advisors, etc. We put a team of 6 staff specifically in there. Those staff came from across different parts of the organisations, from staff relations and human resource, from ICT, business intelligence, organisation development and civil engineering. And it was that multidisciplinary approach that brought different perspectives into play. But at the same time, they had a real challenge for themselves. The organisation was still somewhat sceptical. You know, here's a dedicated team. Are they going to be specialised? Are they going to be kind of up there in lights? And how are they going to engage with us? So we trained them properly, and we blooded them. And we blooded them on making sure that we got very quick impact in terms of our redesign of our website, first of all, and introducing then yourcouncil.ie as our platform for front-end delivery of our services. And to date, we now have transferred, and through every one of the services that we put on there has gone through a service design process with our staff. Not just with our staff, but with users. It could be with tenants, it could be with politicians, etc. And I'll come to some of those. 36,000, that seems to be jumping around at me, 36,800 logged to date, 60% of those logged by citizens. A big change from the scenario that we were in earlier. We did 2 major projects to try and blood our staff more inside in it. We have a phenomenal community fund where we give out money to community with about 1,000 different community organisations in Cork County. And I just want to focus in on some of this. If you look at the channel shift down there, we had an 81% shift in the channel through which people lodged their applications. We increased the channels. They could still do it in hard copy, but that changed significantly. And we had a service rating and a user satisfaction rating from that of 5 out of 5 from 70% of our users, and 22% said 4 out of 5. That was a major, major change and of value to selling the concept of service design within the organisation. Similarly, from a very emotive area, in terms of people seeking housing services from us, we achieved an 86% reduction in the time spent processing those service queries and a 100% increase in acknowledgements and getting information back out. Now you can apply that to 1 member of staff or 100 members of staff, so you can see the power of actually getting the staff users. In fact, as part of that process, we engaged with government ministers on how they viewed our service and how they would like it designed for themselves. We engaged with our local tenants, we engaged with our local contractors, we engaged with our local politicians ourselves. And that, the other benefit of that is that it proved the concept to the political world as well, who actually approved the funding from me to put into innovation and service design thinking. On a weekly basis and a monthly basis, yeah, I won't dwell on this too much. We get our outcomes, we get reports on our service ratings, business intelligence reports, dashboards, etc. And they are continuously reviewed and fed back into the people who are working with them. And we also sought the insights. These are not my insights, but they're insights from people who engage with the process. And the insights and the messaging to anybody in the organisation who's trying to move an organisation along this path. The first one, vision and support at the top of the organisation, was absolutely critical. And that wasn't necessarily from me, but it was from some of the senior directors within the organisation who took a view, yes, we've got to start changing the culture of the organisation and also the way we deliver our business. Leveraging the assets, getting the right people involved, taking the space, partnerships, and creating the environment for learning. And we now actively allow staff to take time out at will. We didn't necessarily first day decide if we were going to do A, B, C. We allowed it to be rather organic for the first year or so as to build the confidence and build the feel of how you take people's staff out and allow people into a space where they can just put up the posters and start thinking about where are the touch points, etc. And they're the insights back to us, so it's been highly, highly successful. In terms of moving on and the innovation for the wider organisation, the service design movement has been a powerful enabler, there's no doubt about that. Innovation does exist everywhere, but it's really about enabling people to have the space and about allowing it to flourish with utilising a service design approach to reach excellence in service delivery. it has been highly, highly successful. To the extent, there are some of our achievements over the last number of years on a wider organisational basis. We were the Local Authority Housing Department of the Year in 2015. We were the first local authority in the country to achieve ISO 50001 Energy Accreditation in 2016. This year, we were awarded the Excellence in Communication for Public Relations Award. Down the bottom middle one, which was a really phenomenal achievement, our entire organisation, when you think of the risks that we face every day, 24/7, at the moment I have probably staff out fighting fires, cleaning roads, wiping up debris, etc. And yes, tomorrow morning, over the next 12 hours, they'll be doing so. But for our entire health and safety management and welfare work system, we were the first local authority in the country, out of 31 local authorities, to achieve national accreditation from a National Standards Authority to do so. And we lead a lot of stuff now nationally as well. So it has opened up a thinking, and it all comes from the fact that there was a crisis of confidence. We understood our organisation and we tried to deal with it. Finally, last two slides, our Public Service 2020 is very much that story. National government here is highly, highly focused on innovation across the range of services. And the next challenge to us all, I think, is to try and get that level of innovation across services and how we help each other. That's a real challenge, not just within our own organisations. And I spoke at the outset about our raising data, the quality of service to people. Why do you want to live in Cork? Lorna has lived in Cork. She'll come back next year to you and tell you, she'll probably ask, first thing as well, how many of you visited Cork since last year? These are the outcomes. If you're delivering meaningful results for citizens, that's ultimately what we have to achieve, whether by way of design of our product, the process that we go through, whether it's like the guy who's opening up, and my son opening up his can of Nutella. 92% of residents believe that Cork is a great place to live, and 86% are happy with their employment, 83% are satisfied with life in general, and 86% feel a sense of pride in the area. That's not just down to us, but we're very much part of it, and our staff and our organisation is. So to finish, I just want you to take away as service designers, as leaders of organisations, in particular as public service people inside here, think about the heartbeat of your organisation, because if you don't get it right, you will never achieve success. Thank you.